from the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between. This is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. If your son or daughter is serious about college athletics, call them at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athletes.
Here we go. It's another edition of the 50/50 Podcast, powered by our proud partners, College Promoters USA. They are America's premier college prep program and high school student athlete marketing service since 1997. Located locally here in the San Antonio area, you can find them in the Ventura Plaza Shopping Center, but you can also find them on social media, on Twitter at SATX Recruiting, as well as on Instagram at College Promoters USA. And you can also get more information on what they're about and the many awesome things that they're doing on their website at collegepromotersusa.com. My next guest, proud to have him here. I know we've been talking for a little bit now. Very excited to have him on one of the premier programs in Region 4 in the greater San Antonio area. He is the head men's soccer coach of the San Antonio Reagan Rattlers, Coach Gilbert Villareal. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Coach Cano?
I'm doing great. Excited to have you here. I know we apologize, some minor technical difficulties, but we pushed right through it. Appreciate having you here, Coach. Excited to have you, and let's dive right in. Tell us, I guess, for the people that may not necessarily be as familiar with you, which I wouldn't imagine would be very many around the state, given your background, but just briefly tell us where you've been, how long you've been at Reagan. I know you've been there for a good bit, second stint, I believe. But tell us where you've been, how you got to Reagan, and how you got to Reagan.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say I appreciate you having me on. It's been great listening to some friends and colleagues that have been on, and everything you do for high school soccer. It's kind of my story. I'm just a local San Antonio kid who played at MacArthur and ended up playing at Austin College up in Sherman, Texas, and just pretty thankful and grateful for everything that this sport has given me and my family. It's basically been my whole life. And so, we need more of this. We need, coverage. We need, exposure for our players and the work that you've been doing and your team have been great. So, I want to make sure I thank you for that. So, got out of school and of course, and the credit goes to my mom. She, after about 3 years in the corporate world, my mom convinced me to go teach. And so I said, well, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to try and coach. And so, I was at Southside High School and was able to be the head coach there, started that program, just kind of in the right place, at the right time. So I was there, and then I went back to my alma mater, at MacArthur, and was the assistant there when I got the head job. Then at, Reagan back in 2007, 2008. And so just really lucky and blessed. A lot of people went to bat for me and was able to land that job with relatively little experience. And, was there for 5 years. I was coaching football at the same time, which a lot of our coaches do. And, trying to first and foremost maintain a marriage and be a good dad. And I had 2 young boys at the time. And, 5 years of coaching football and coaching soccer at Reagan was I had enough. And so, was able to go to Steele High School for 3 years and really just cherish my time there, the great community out in Cibolo. And, had 3 years there and then got asked to come back to Reagan just to do soccer and not have a second sport. And so, that was just an opportunity that I couldn't really refuse. I felt bad for leaving Steele. I thought I was going to be there a really long time. And, to get back to Northeast where, I was a K through 12 student myself and, grew up my whole life in that area and live in that area. And so, to be able to go back to Reagan, obviously great program, great school, great community, great talent. I went back, and it's kind of scary. It's my 8th year back. It's the longest I've ever been anywhere. And so we'll see how much longer I can stay.
I didn't know about the football piece, though. That's interesting. I did not know about that. So, because correct me if I'm wrong, you're a Mac grad, right? Graduate from MacArthur?
Graduated from MacArthur. And my mom is going back to my mom. I don't know why I'm talking about her so much, but she was a nurse growing up, her whole life. And so I always wanted to play football, but was never allowed. I was told I was never going to play football and never going to own a motorcycle. And so, when I interviewed for the Reagan job initially, obviously that was one of my big concerns, was just not having a football background. But I convinced them somehow that I could coach kids and learned a lot and appreciate that sport, and actually made me a much better soccer coach in a lot of ways. And I really was just blown away by the whole practice planning, and all the time that those guys spend, for games and things like that. And it really, really helped me in my career. So, but it, the time commitment was just too much. Reagan was pretty successful those years in football, and they would go a few rounds, and then soccer season would start, and we'd go a few rounds, and then spring football would start. And, before you knew it, it was like 5 years just in a flash. So.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, interesting. Thank you for sharing that, by the way. And yeah, I can I can definitely relate on the motorcycle front, because I've had can't tell you the number of conversations I've had with both my mom and particularly my wife now for many years. So yeah, so I feel you on that one. So yeah. I know she'll appreciate me mentioning that too. So
yeah.
So let's segue here, Coach. Let's talk about so World Cup just wrapped up. Unbelievable final Sunday morning. Your thoughts, your takeaway, both on the final and from your perspective, and maybe as well as on just the U.S. men's national team and just the overall tournament.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing, right? One of the craziest World Cups. I grew up, that's all we could see growing up. There wasn't Fox Soccer Channel or any of that other stuff,
Right.
And so it was like every 4 years you'd wait for the World Cup, and then you'd maybe watch some Mexican League games on Sunday, and that's the only soccer we got to see. But obviously, being a teacher now also for 22 years, it's afforded me time off in the summer to enjoy every single World Cup and just sit around and watch all the games. And so having seen all those games, and obviously being around the sport this long, it's kind of crazy, because you always think that you've seen it all, or you've kind of experienced, everything there is to kind of see in a game, just so to see just the upsets and the drama with the different countries and the socio political background stories, and
Right.
and trying to figure out how to watch games while on campus, while I'm trying to supposed to be teaching and preparing for finals. And it was kind of cool though, because we had a lot of fun with the players, and we were able to watch the semifinal games and a couple other games, and it's like we were supposed to be practicing, but hey, it was a much better experience just being able to see all the players, watch the games. And then so you get to the final, and it's a story, it's a story that's been meant to told for a while, right? I mean, I obviously root for the US, and my dad was born in Mexico and Monterrey, and so they're my backup. And I have lots of family members and strong feelings for the Mexican team. My mom has a lineage to Spain, so there's all these kind of stories of teams you support. But it's hard not to be a Messi fan, and to see him finally, there's a lot of times I tell my players, you're not going to always get what you deserve, and it's just the way it goes. And I don't know if there's any player more deserving than him with everything he's done in the game, and to do it in the manner that he did, and just the drama back and forth of the final was just amazing. And so, it just makes you want more, right? Like I sometimes think I just need a break from soccer. But then, I'm just like, I was looking to see what games were on today just so I could keep watching. So it's
Yeah.
great, and then as far as in the US, it's an exciting time, the amount of talent that is in the pool right now is just amazing. And to see them, perform and kind of not just, sit back and try and, avoid disaster, and the style and the,
Right.
the thought process to try and take it to teams and really, try and set the tempo ourselves. And so that was exciting, and, obviously disappointing, a little bit, naive in some ways in that game that we ended up losing just because of, whether it's lack of experience or, whatever else. But, obviously it's sets up for a pretty exciting World Cup here in 4 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, from the US's US men's national team perspective, it was great to see them emerge with some sort of identity, particularly in the midfield, right? Excuse me. And there was all kinds of storylines there. You have 35-year-old Tim Ream, who just played an unbelievable tournament, right? And I think there was so many storylines there. I think the big thing, and you're right, you talk about naive. I think that's probably the perfect word when we talk about that match versus the Netherlands, because the unfortunate piece of our midfield was that the legs started to look tired right by that fourth match, and clearly we didn't have the depth, right? And we had to figure out, hey, how are you going to make substitution patterns in terms of, are you going to slide over Tim Weah? What are you going to do on the left hand side? You're trying to get in Aronson. It's compounded by the fact that we clearly don't have a clear front runner in terms of a number 9. So yeah, I mean, and then you're in here trying to figure out why isn't Gio Reyna playing, and then that's a whole other conversation, as we're finding out now,
It's
right? In terms of
another podcast, yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, but I think a lot of questions still to be answered, but I think we walk away from this having had a lot more answered, I guess, than what we had going in. And I think some people realize that how you play in the qualification process itself does not necessarily determine how your World Cup is going to go, as Mexico and Canada and Costa Rica found out, right? So particularly Canada. So yeah, so I think from their front, there's a lot of excitement. Now, we have Copa America's coming here. Copa America's coming here in 2024. And I don't know if you've seen this. They're talking about Germany coming here this coming in 2023 to play some friendly. I don't know if it's just going to be one friendly or a couple of friendlies. So Germany's trying to line that up as well. So how we play, how the U.S., well, I mean, Mexico and Canada will be in the same situation as far as there is no qualification process for them. So they're going to have to get extra creative with how they test their players, right? In terms of friendlies, what additional tournaments. I know there's the other talk of Gianni Infantino now at FIFA talking about trying to create this new, I don't know if you saw this new FIFA Club World Cup, I think, system. Right. And if that's the case, that they're saying that would be played in 2025 and would kind of be a dry run for 2026 here. It would be here. So we'll see. Interesting. Yeah. But yeah,
you're right. Going in, there was a lot of question marks about how we were playing. Obviously we qualified well, but then, there was a friendly against Japan that didn't go well. And there was a lot of questions about how we looked against them. And, in my mind, I was like, and then we kind of saw it. Right. Japan's pretty good. And so, they had a good World Cup, and then, to see us kind of perform, for me, it's like you and all of us, right? We're always constantly fighting, these battles of people that are new to the sport, trying to be a fan, saying it's boring, if they watch that final, I don't know how you can watch that final and say that soccer is boring. But, I think that the U.S. men's national team did a lot towards kind of hopefully converting some people, because they watch those games, and it was disappointing. The England game, they say, oh, it was 0-0, but hopefully the sport continues to grow. I think it's in a great place. Obviously the MLS is continuing to thrive. And so, the Super League and all that stuff, the Club World Cup, the club, it's hard, right? Because you want to see games as fans, you want players to continue to develop and have opportunities to play, but then you just, I don't know if you saw the FIFA, documentary. It's, it's sometimes just,
Oh yeah,
it's just
FIFA
hard.
Uncovered.
Yeah, it's just
Oh my
hard
God.
sometimes to trust their motives, right? And so, but yeah.
Yeah, I told a couple of my buddies. Told a couple of my buddies after I watched that FIFA Uncovered documentary that felt like I needed a shower. It was just so, God, it was, I mean, it's like none of it surprises you, right? But yet at the same time, it's like, it's still kind of, it's still jaw dropping, so I don't know. Yeah. That was a great documentary.
You hear and you're like, of course it's going on, but then you see it and it's just it's so blatant, and it's just, it's unbelievable. And so hopefully, it continues to move in the right direction, but
yeah,
it is all about money. So
right. Yeah. In terms of that final, I think you're spot on. Couldn't agree with you more. It was great to see that come to fruition in terms of Messi, right? I think you could see that in terms of all of not just all of Argentina, but basically everyone outside of France, it seems like. But I think I walked away from that final. Yeah, well, first of all, I think I had on my cell, I had probably like 12 different chats going all at the same time over the course of that game. And I had, and a lot of non-soccer guys too, a lot of non-soccer people. And so many of them were telling me in those last probably 40 minutes of that game, 45 minutes of that game, that it was just like, this is the, this is the greatest like single sporting event I think I've ever seen, right? Just the drama, how incredible it was, how it was kind of building. And but yeah, I think I walked away from that game really being just really extremely impressed by France, just in terms of the character that they showed when they clearly didn't have it, right, for 75 minutes. And they had and it wasn't an excuse, it was the reality of they had I think, what was it, a flu bug, I think, that was running through half that team about. And then they're missing half of an all-star team, right? They have like 5 legitimate starters that didn't even make the trip because of injuries. So when you factor all that in, I think, and the character piece, I was really taken back by the fight that they had, right? That they came back and they had to push Argentina to get to that level, right? So it was phenomenal to watch.
Absolutely. I said the same thing. I think that was, I mean, I'm sure I've seen others that were just as dramatic, but absolutely in the final, right? In the final of a World Cup, to have that game and the way it played out, it was just amazing. I think it was the best soccer game I've ever seen. I mean, it really was. And with France, they're missing all those players, like you said. Their depth is just incredible. I'm spoiled at Reagan. I really am. And there's no denying the talent that's there. And we have a great deep team too. And so one of the things I was going to say is, even the, because as coaches, right, we're always kind of trying to analyze what they're doing and not just the players. And so for, the French coach to just pull the trigger right before halftime and make 2 subs and, just try and affect the game at that moment it was all just pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think the icing on it was just watching both Messi and what that game was right the coronation, the passing of the torch there with Mbappe is to see them both be great, right? To see them both kind of just back and forth, back counter. And that's like, you don't, even amongst great players in any sport, you don't always get to see that, right? That back and forth piece. So that's what made it all just extremely special.
Yeah. That for I think we all know that soccer might be one of the hardest sports for one guy to just kind of take over. It's extremely integrated team game, and so for those 2 guys to just kind of take over the way they did and score 5 of the 6 goals and just kind of trying to punch each other out was just amazing.
Yeah. So we segue over, Coach. We'll talk about we'll start talking about some Texas high school soccer here now. So, I had the privilege and honor of being a guest of Tasco's at last month's Tasco's Texas High School Soccer Coaches Convention in Galveston there at Moody Gardens. And it was pretty awesome for me, the experience that I had in terms of interviewing coaches, talking with coaches, the coverage piece, talking with just getting so many different angles and inputs. It was both, I really appreciated it. It was an eye opener, but it was also great to put a lot of faces and get to meet a lot of people that I had already kind of been working with through the podcast. But I was kind of curious I want to get your thoughts on the experience from this year, from your perspective.
Sure. There again, on behalf of Tasco, we appreciate you being there. I know that, Jimmy Kruger, reached out, or you guys reached out to each other. And, I think it's, let's just go ahead and decide it right now that it needs to be an annual thing and you need to be there. And cause I think that, the more coverage that we get, through outlets like yours is, it's great for the organization, but ultimately it's great for, the high school players. And so, I've been lucky enough to be on the board for several years now, and just wanted to initially get involved and try and give back and learn and network and see what I could do just to kind of help the organization to continue to grow. And it's been an amazing experience, and the clinic itself to kind of get back in our second year after COVID was just great to see. And so it's a lot of work, and it's been a crazy couple of years, with COVID and us having to organize an online kind of digital clinic back in in November of 2020, and then to get back to Moody Gardens in Galveston after that break was pretty emotional for excuse me, pretty emotional for a lot of us, on the board and people across the state, because, sadly we lost a great friend and a great coach and a great leader in Joey. And, he was supposed to be the president of that clinic. And, it's just crazy to kind of think of all the things we've been through and all the people that we've lost. And, it really affected us as a board. And, so to get back and have the clinic again and kind of honor him, and, was great. And so then this last year, Laura Peter, our president, was, in charge and put on a great clinic. Obviously there's a ton of people in the background that, that help bring in the speakers, and, Jimmy as our, I don't know if I forget his new title. I kind of helped approve it, but, he's our director,
COO,
Chief Operating Officer. And he does a lot of work, and it's really difficult. And Andrew Stewart before him, helped get us to where we are now, with basically being the marketing director and organizing that clinic. But to see, roughly 900 to 1,000 high school coaches from across the state come to one place and just be able to hang out and talk and hopefully learn and celebrate kids and celebrate the Hall of Honor, and just get away from school and be able to kind of just take a mental break before the season starts. That's what it's about ultimately. And hopefully, hopefully the coaches get something out of it, take something away from it. We have, a ton of sponsors as well that we always have to thank. And so ultimately it's just about, helping coaches grow and helping coaches network and hopefully providing, that education piece to them. And I'm looking forward to kind of taking a break and getting some things off my plate. But absolutely, I'll always be a supporter of the organization and thankful for the experiences that I've had with them.
So what I'm hearing is you want to kind of clear your plate a little bit so you can get back to coaching football in addition to soccer. Is that what I'm hearing, Coach?
I don't know. I mean, it's
No one's listening. No one's listening anyway.
Yeah, exactly. My wife's not listening, so it doesn't matter. But no, I don't think she.
No, don't get me in trouble with her. I'm making up rumors here. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, it's an honor, right? And it's
right.
we're all just a bunch of volunteers, and we all I think the board is in a great place right now, and with really great dedicated coaches that just want to serve and help grow the sport, right? And whether that's continuing to get 3As on board or middle schools, all those things has been great. But yeah, I going back to that father piece, I have a senior and a 7th grader, and
nice.
It's kind of flashing by, and so to spend as much time as I can with those boys over the next few years is going to be good.
Yeah. And I can relate to a certain extent. I can only imagine from your perspective. I have a current sophomore, right, who also plays for me. So she gets no escape, right? She's got to do with dad and coach. But no, I definitely, I'm experiencing that now as far as just savoring, enjoying some of these little moments, right? So yeah, I can definitely relate.
So I'll be reaching out to you.
Go ahead, Coach.
I'll be reaching out to you and how you deal with it, because my 7th grader, is if I can figure a way to keep my job at Reagan for the next 4 or 5 years, he's planning on coming there. He plays soccer, and so that experience of coaching your own kid. I have friends that are currently doing it, and it's the highs are great, and the frustrations and all those things too. It's just an emotional roller coaster, I can imagine.
Yeah, for sure. Reach out offline, definitely help you out, Coach. I can tell you this, I'm not afraid to share it from the perspective of my daughter. She's amazing. She handles it very well, and she can compartmentalize very well, right? Hey, this is the dad head on right now, and then this is the coach head on, and understanding that, hey, I'm probably going to have to coach you tougher, and you have to understand why, right? So there is no preferential treatment here. So she's done exceptionally well with that. So I can share that. So now you mentioned numbers, right? So there were certain things at the convention that kind of kept coming up the more I spoke with coaches. One of them was a big one was the social piece. You mentioned it. It was great to be back, right? It was like this was like the first year of really being back. One of the other things that was mentioned was how many people were there, how many coaches were there, right? From returning coaches saying this is probably the most I've ever seen, and then new coaches kind of taking in the experience and sharing with me that this was pretty awesome to be around this many soccer people. I would have never guessed. And then just the sheer amount of people that were still day 2, the morning of day 2, people still registering, right? So that was pretty awesome to see. But this year, from all those things plus more, I know you hit on some of it, but was there any one distinct thing that stood out to you that made this past convention different?
All those things that you said, every year the goal is to continue to grow the convention, and it is our big, event, on a yearly basis. And, I think that there's, unfortunately some misconceptions from coaches at times that what Tasco does or what we stand for or who we are. And, it's a nonprofit organization that, the more that we can grow the organization, the more that we can get people at the convention, the more that we can give back to students and give back to players and give back to coaches. The work that our foundation, chairman Derek Veerling has done with that has been incredible. And
right.
The amount of scholarships that we give when coaches or players or schools, unfortunately, experience, tragedy or things like that, we're able to help them. And so, getting back to your question, it's just amazing to kind of see the growth in the sponsors and the booths. And then, it always just impresses me the experience that the presenters have when they give us feedback about, kind of like yourself, maybe they've, coached a long time. They've presented in different types of clinics or things like that, or coaching courses. And they come here and it's just like, wow, this is crazy. Like you didn't tell me that there was going to be this many coaches here. And it's, it's just great to see. And the, the other thing too, that's really hard for us as a board, as to where to have the convention. And we were in San Antonio for years, and we had it outside over at the Blossom Fields, and of course we always fought weather and things like that and audio issues, and we were at the convention center, we were at the Alamo Dome one year, and just economically with the space and the hotel and the floor space that we have for the actual field sessions, it's always a concern for us to see if people are going to continue to come to Galveston. And we're obviously always looking for new places, and the issues of hotel rooms and floor space and scheduling and calendars and all those things falls into it. But some people are going to complain that it's in Galveston, but we continue to see great numbers, and it's grown on me. It's a great place. It's who can complain about going to the beach for a little bit of time and get some seafood. And but yeah, it's just great to see all the hard work that the board does. Credit to them throughout the year to kind of pull that off, because roughly 20 of us, and to kind of see it, for me as the past president this year, just to kind of have a more of a background role, and just to kind of sit back finally and just look at everything turn out so successful was just really neat to see.
Yeah. And I can personally confirm those sentiments, right? Just personal testimonial. What I got to experience this year was that, from Jimmy, first of all, the Tasco, the board, the staff, from Jimmy was phenomenal in terms of working with me and getting us there, but also just the entire staff, the regional, assistants, second assistants, everybody. It was incredible. And then just watching the work behind the scenes that they've been putting in, and obviously Jimmy, from his perspective, months and months out as well. But then also, I'd be the first to tell you that why Galveston, right? Why all the way out there? But then when I see it for myself in terms of just the relationship and the staff of Moody Gardens and how they kind of took care of us, it was phenomenal to experience and to see, and just the service, the support. I get it now. And then just the layout there as well, how it just lends itself out to what you're trying to do there. It all made sense. But I had to see it, and I had to see it from behind the scenes and then experience it for it to really sink in. So now I get it, right? Now I really get it. I really do. So yeah, I can definitely confirm that as well. So
yeah, we appreciate that. It's
yeah.
It's like with coaching, right? With your players or your parents or teaching kids in the classroom. And I was guilty for years of always trying to please everybody and try and keep everybody happy. And I still want to do that as much as possible with my daily interactions with my players and students and all that. But, it goes with Tasco as well. And unfortunately, people in El Paso, people in the Valley, people in the Panhandle, it's difficult. We understand that. But with the convention space to able, it's not quite a full field, but it's almost a pretty good size field for the field sessions and the vendors. And then of course, like you said, Moody Gardens has been just extremely accommodating and helped us keep costs down, to bring in, presenters and to give back to the coaches who attend with their swag and their, things that we gift them. And so, it's been great. Luckily, I don't have to make those decisions really anymore. So it's good.
All right. Awesome. So we segue over to your squad now, Coach, to your team. Last time I'll ask you a question about last season. Okay. So you go 24-3 on the season, undefeated in an extremely tough district. I don't have to tell you that. Make it all the way to the regional final, right? So you're one game, one half away from state. You look back on it now, and as you start getting, obviously you got your eyes on the upcoming season, but what was maybe the key lesson learned from last year that'll help prepare you for this season?
That's the big question, right? I've been asking myself that for 22 years now. What can I learn from last year to maybe get over the hump. But, obviously, the first thing to say is it doesn't get by me how incredibly just privileged I am to be at that program with those kids, because, obviously, there's been 4 different coaches at Reagan, and every single one of them's had success. And so, that obviously says something about the community and the players. And so, I just want to congratulate them and thank them for all their hard work, because they did. They had a great season, and every year we kind of lose our last game at some point, and then try and look back, and it's just little things, right? Little moments in games that just kind of don't go your way at times. And, that's one of the things that some people get frustrated with about soccer. And that is, you're not always going to be the best team, but you can probably get a result sometimes. And in no way am I saying that we were the better team that day against Lake Travis. Obviously they went on to win state, and they were better than us that day. I don't think by much, but they deserved to win because they took their chances. And so, I think the World Cup kind of showed that, right, with all the upsets and things like that. And so if you have a plan, you can kind of get a result. And that's one of the things that I kind of love about it, is even though you might be better than a team, you still have to go out and really perform. And so, the Lake Travis game, you just had to bring it up, right? So we
sorry.
No, it's good. We love talking about it, because obviously to be able to play in a regional final at your home stadium, what a great experience for our players. And so, like I said, there's a couple moments there where we can learn from, the inability to clear a corner, right? I mean, they scored off a corner in the first goal, and that's something that we've done pretty well. But you go back and look at the film, and we just let a guy loose, and it happens, right? And so, on the other end, we had a couple really good chances that kids have been scoring, and obviously it's the most difficult thing to do in soccer, and when you don't take that chance and you give up another one, it's that's it. No matter how hard you fight back, you just can't get over that hump. So it's frustrating, but to be able to kind of come back and try again, is what keeps us going. So, the kids that are returning this year, they they obviously are excited. They're a lot of the players that were on varsity or around the varsity team. 2 years ago, we lost to New Braunfels in the first round in a shootout. And so then to kind of get over that and make a little run to the regional tournament and make it to the regional final, they're eager to kind of learn from that experience and kind of hopefully, do it again.
Thoughts on playing in 28-6A, which is in this area largely regarded as the toughest district, right? What are your thoughts in terms of the grind of making it through that district and how it prepares you for postseason play?
Sure. I'll share a little story about, just my past. I played over at Blossom, played over at Comalander when I was at MacArthur. And, and I was like, I've played here, and then I've kind of lived in the area. And then, when I was able to get the job at Reagan the first time, I kind of thought, I was a pretty dumb young coach, and I thought I was ready to, I had it all figured out. It's like, hey, this is my home. And I'll never forget my very first district game. Back then it was 26-5A, but, I'll never forget my very first district game against, at Reagan as the head coach against Churchill. And, it was 2008, and they just, I got to choose my words carefully here, but they just whooped us. Physically, tactically, technically, they just beat us to the ground. And I thought we were pretty good, and it kind of woke me up. And, we ended up playing them again in the playoffs, and they whooped us again and went to state. But it's a great place to be, as coaches. One of the things that I think we love as much as that we love the most about being able to coach is just the competitive nature of our jobs, right? And so we're all competitors.
Mhm.
We all just love the playing games and competing, and that's why we kind of go into it, is to kind of still be a part of the game and still be able to compete, even though the body for a couple decades now hasn't allowed me to. But
Yeah.
and so it's a great place to just kind of test your wits and your skills. I mean, as a coach, because there's high level quality coaches all over the state, all over the city, all the surrounding areas, and of course in our district as well. And so to pitch yourself against guys like David Rogers, who's won multiple state championships, Steve Zimmerman, who won a state championship. We were at MAC when Walter was still at Reagan, and there's obviously the district is filled with great coaches as well. And so I love it. I'm from, like I've said many times, I'm from the area and I grew up in the area, and to be able to kind of be in this district and the competitive nature of it, it's great when you can kind of come through in a good way. And of course, it's just frustrating because there's no easy game. There's no easy game. Obviously, the standings work themselves out every year, but every year it doesn't matter who you play in this district. It's going to be a tough game. So it's stressful as heck, but it's a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun.
Now, so you've lived this, right? Literally in terms of this district, right? Both as a student athlete and then as a coach for many years. And I promise, Coach, this is not a loaded question, but if you had to kind of pick a couple of words or maybe a sentence or two in terms of describing the personnel, just maybe a descriptor of 28-6A, right? Of just the makeup of the personality of the district, right? In terms of just week in and week out, right? What that's like. What would you tell us?
It's just going to be a fight, right? I mean, it's going to be a competitive match, and that's not to say anything else about the surrounding districts, about any of those schools, because there's great teams and competitive districts all around. But it's any year there's going to be a team or two that's really good that could have made the playoffs in another district, but that aren't going to get to go to the playoffs. And it's just amazing. I kind of like, looking at the history of the whole state of Texas, really, and the playoffs and soccer and high school soccer. But when you look at Region 4, and you look at Reagan High School, the boys and the girls team have probably represented our district at the regional tournament more than anybody. And so it's just crazy, because if you do get a chance to kind of get out of the district, you're going to have a chance to maybe win a couple playoff games, and so exciting, right? I mean, if anything, you wanted a word or two, it's exciting, it's competitive, it's fun, and every year right around this time, especially here in a few weeks, we just can't wait to kind of start playing those games, because there's games, even though you said we went undefeated and stuff, there's ties that we want to, correct. And there's tough games that we want to try and do better in. And of course, with, with everybody kind of coming after you, I tell my kids all this time that, the amount of, it's not hate, but it's just, the amount of motivation that teams have when they play us. It's difficult to get the kids and the players to understand that, right? Because they just, we always get everybody's best, and so it makes it fun.
Yeah. My description of 28-6A on both sides, really, both the boys and girls side, is, and there are plenty of tough districts across the state and in this area. It's not a knock on any of them, but 28-6A in particular, I describe it as 3 words, really, is what I use, as no days off, right? No days off is how I describe it, because you see it all the time. It's like somebody, even the quote unquote team that's down, right, for that year, is you got to show up, right? You got to come to play, because if not, it's like anyone is capable of pretty much beating anyone. So yeah, no days off is kind of my take on that district, on your districts.
It's a great way to put it.
We talk about this season, right? And so this is kind of a two-parter, I guess. One, as a coach, obviously you want to always highlight your team and highlight all your players, but maybe give us one or two players that you would like to maybe put the spotlight on, that maybe the greater San Antonio area needs to know more about, or maybe the state needs to know more about, that you can share with us.
So I'm gonna say something before and just say, I'm gonna apologize to anybody I forget, because like we said, we're a pretty deep team, and I could sit here and name everybody on the roster,
right.
Really. We have but to just go through a few of the players. We obviously have Aiden Phelan, who's a 4-year letterman for us, who's been on varsity since his freshman year, and had a great season last year, and looking for him to have a great senior year. People like Jack Hilliard, who's in the midfield with him, should have a great year as well. We have another returning senior in Mateo Domenech, who played the 9 for us last year, that did great, and we're hoping can lead the line. And of course, Sean Mativi came to us last year, our goalie, and he's been battling a little hand injury for the past month or so, and we're excited to get him back. But to be lucky enough to put a I don't even know how tall he is. He's probably 6'4", 6'5", and just a pretty gifted goalkeeper. He should have a great year. And then in the back, which is just as important, two returning senior starters in Logan Redmond and Pablo Cantu that play in the back for us, that were starters all year last year, that are just talented, good defenders, and really big time competitors. So those are a few. We have another returning senior his name's Marcelo Tenorio, who's going to start for us out wide on one of the at 7-Eleven, and his older brother was Pato Tenorio, who had a great year for us last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like always, we have a great handful of young kids coming up. We scrimmaged O'Connor, my good friend Rob Bledsoe, over at O'Connor on Friday, and I didn't realize it until 2 or 3 minutes into the game. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? But I was just commenting to him, I think I started 5 or 6 sophomores. And, so these kids that are just coming up through, we're blessed to have them, and looking forward to their next 2 or 3 years with us, because, there's a lot of young kids too that are going to be playing some varsity minutes this year for the first time, but definitely belong. So.
Yeah. And a quick shout out, Coach, also a personal shout out, right? Obviously completely biased here, but they're kind of couple of my own in terms of College Promoters USA and my role with College Promoters USA, that are in your program, in your system, and goalkeepers Noah Cedillo and Caden Morris. So wanted to give them a shout out as well. So proud of the work that they're doing. So
those two guys, they're amazing, and they compete, and all 3 of those goalkeepers. We have a sophomore named Patrick Bassett, who's kind of in the mix too. But Caden and Noah, just 2 of the most humble, hardworking kids that I've been around, and really looking forward to giving them as many opportunities as I can this year. And obviously they're working really hard to try and continue to play at the next level. And that, absolutely, they're great to have in the program. And then, there's a ton of kids like that we have that are just great to be around and compete and talented. And so absolutely.
Yeah. You are definitely blessed. That group, definitely blessed. And, I kid with Caden, because I tell him all the time, it's like, man, you're making me look bad. It's like every time I see this kid, he's up on, he's personal goalkeeper training session, club. He's at, he's hitting the weight room, something. I was like, man, this guy. I tell him, you're making. It's like every time I feel like I can take a day off, I come across one of your posts, and I was like, I got to get up and do something. So, those are the kind of guys that are a joy to coach, for sure.
Yeah, and to thank you for your service and your military background, if I'm not mistaken, and Caden's dad's same way.
Yeah.
My father served in the Army and was in Vietnam, and whether it's a military's kid or a coach's kid, like you were talking about your daughter, it's it's just great to have those role models in our lives, and it shows because they carry themselves, just really well, and really just hardworking
Right.
kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And thank you to your father as well for his service.
Absolutely.
What has you, we talked about last season, and we talked about how that played out, the lessons learned, players, you hit on it a little bit in terms of the young group that you're going to have coming in this year as well, getting a lot of minutes that are ready to go. But what's maybe one thing that you can highlight that has you the most excited about this season?
That's a good question. Just first and foremost, just the opportunity to kind of go again and go with this group of kids. And so, the district's going to be extremely tough. We could sit here and talk about Brandeis and Johnson and Churchill and Lee and
Right.
all of them really. The thing that excites me the most is just like you said, is having these young players that are coming through. And it's hard because we have kids that it's the hardest thing that we deal with, and we have kids that are with us that are juniors and seniors, and they're constantly trying to compete and make their way into the team. And then we have young kids coming up, and to unfortunately get accused sometimes of just having favorites or all these things. It's just frustrating because you're just trying to do what's best for the program and the team, and it comes with the position. But
Right.
it's the same thing every year at Reagan, really. And here again, I'm spoiled and I'm lucky because the disappointments of the previous season are always kind of just put away with the excitement about the new group of kids. And just like every year, 13 years at Reagan now, this group of kids and these players that we have just is exciting because, it's makes you wonder what they can do if they can kind of figure it out and put it together.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a question here. So from my co-host of Inside Texas High School Soccer, Coach Rafa Castorena, what high school team in Texas would you like to schedule a game with?
I kind of already have, we have, we're lucky enough to be able to travel, and, we are going to be going up to Dallas and playing a couple really good teams up there. We start with Katy Cinco Ranch, and we might end up playing a team from Miami, of all places, depending upon how they do and how we do. And, and this just kind of goes back to some friendships, right? Like, I'm good friends with Rob Bledsoe, so being able to scrimmage him is always fun. But, we haven't played in a few years, and we've already kind of scheduled it. And, there's, if you know me or Jimmy Kruger, it's no surprise that that we're pretty good friends, and we've decided to play each other again. So
Yeah.
in Austin, we're going to be playing each other, and to play a relatively meaningless game. It's a tournament game, which obviously goes against our records, and it's important for our kids to play and develop and see them compete. But to kind of have a friendly with him, this year, especially because of his success last year, making it to the state tournament. And, that's one that we're really looking forward to because I think he's better than us this year. So hopefully we can hold on and get a result. But, those games where you're able to kind of compete against your colleagues that you're lucky enough to get along with are the good ones. Right. And so,
Right.
luckily we get to play all the 28 6A teams, and those are ones that we love to schedule, obviously as well. But the one that should be fun this year should be Seven Lakes, to see kind of where we're at.
Yeah, that's gonna be a match. I know you mentioned, I understand where you're coming from in terms of the meaningless air quotes, right? But yeah, I think because he's gonna have a squad, that's for sure. But I think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great for you all to experience and see that as well. I think because I think when it's all said and done, both squads are gonna have a say in terms of potentially a run at state, right? So, all right, Coach. One final question here before two more questions, but this is my last one in terms of your team. Now, this one is a little loaded, so I got to apologize for this one. So, but I've been asking this one as of late to a lot of coaches, though. So, the 2023 finish this sentence. The 2023 season will be a success if
2023 season will be a success if I don't get fired. How about that?
I love it. That's a first.
Yeah. No.
I say, if it makes you feel any better, I say that pretty much going every Monday, going into every week. So don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to sound super corny here, but as I've gotten older, it's really the most important thing, and it'll be this upcoming season will be a success if we can somehow get all the kids kind of bought into their role and being a part of the team, being a part of the program. We if we don't win the district, if we don't go far in the playoffs, if we don't win the state tournament, I think that there'll still be a lot of successes to draw upon. But every year we want the players to have a good experience, for the most part. It's not going to happen for all of them, but if they can, grow together and form relationships that'll last them a lifetime and learn, what it means to be a good teammate and to work hard and to be a part of a team, be a part of something bigger than themselves and realize they can't do it by themselves. If they take a step towards being less selfish, and not that they are, but just that experience, right? I mean, that's what's amazing about our job is we get to kind of be a part of this growing experience with these teenage boys that I don't really think that they can experience outside of organized sports, and to be able to do it at Reagan is great. So I know it sounds corny, but I truly believe that if all these guys come through the season with with a little bit more maturity and a little bit more self of being part of team, then that's really what we're trying to do ultimately.
Yeah. No, not corny at all, Coach. I mean, I think extremely well said. I mean, not as funny as your first answer, but still, no, very well said. Very well said. He is Coach Gilbert Villareal, the head men's soccer coach of the San Antonio Reagan Rattlers. All right, Coach, got one more here for you. Completely on the side, but in terms of, you talked about coverage of the sport and where the sport is headed, and you've been here long enough. I kind of want to get, and you're in a unique perspective, given your background, having been a former president of Tasco as well. So you have you have boots on the ground perspective, but you also have the 35,000 foot perspective. Answer this from your perspective. How has the sport, how has Texas high school soccer changed, or is maybe currently changing from what you've seen, you've noticed? Maybe one thing that stands out to you, maybe.
I think the quality of the coaching is huge. When I was playing, no offense to Coach Castaneda or Coach Cribellari at MacArthur, Coach Castaneda was a great coach and successful, and they were both one of the great ones. But we we at Tasco, and it's part of the reason why I got involved, is because I would go as a young coach and learn and pick things up and just try and better myself. And so the quality of the coaching has been really good to see, across the state, and you can see it in how teams are playing and the quality that of play that's on the field. And it's just great to be a part of it. From when I was playing till from the time that I started coaching to now, just to see the growth of programs and the growth of the community involvement and the growth of the players that are involved in the sport. It's great. Obviously we'd like to continue to see it to grow to the smaller schools and those things, but it's just exciting to kind of see everything that it's happening with high school soccer, because it's definitely going in the right place, and the quality of the people that are involved with it is continuing to get better and better and better. So it leads to better player growth and hopefully enjoyment. And so yeah, it's just great to see.
Do you think it looks even better 5 years from now?
I think so. I mean, I would like to think so, right? Because hopefully the districts, obviously the resources aren't always the greatest, and that goes for all teachers, and I'm talking about education in general, not just how we fund our sports, but that hopefully will continue to grow for educators and public schools. And I think so, right? Because I think that the sport itself, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but just over the years, you constantly see the number of kids involved playing high school soccer compared to the other sports has been on a great trajectory. And so I don't know what's going to keep that from continuing.
Yeah. Got a quick question in here from Dave Phelan. Your perspective, how has club soccer helped change the quality of teams? I know you can have a field day with that one, but maybe just one thing you want to hit on.
Yeah, it's the necessary evil, right? They probably say that about us too. Right. I grew up playing club soccer. I currently coach club soccer. The amount of players at Reagan that play club soccer is incredible, and obviously that leads to the levels that they're able to perform at, and it's great. It's frustrating with the costs and all the other background political stuff that goes on with club soccer, but obviously the more that the kids play in a good structured environment, the better. And so we highly encourage all of our players to try and play and try and work with them in the fall to allow them to be able to do that as much as possible. And, it raises the level, obviously. There's no
right.
doubt about the correlation between how many club players a school has and their level of play and their success. So, it's never going to be 100% perfect, but, it's great for players to be able to have that opportunity to just play year round,
Yeah. And I think it's further compounded by, as you mentioned, right, from the high school perspective, is having soccer people in those soccer positions, right, and soccer backgrounds, soccer coaches, because we all know that the formula is relatively simple: is better coaches leads to better players, right? Better educated coaches, more experienced coaches, and just because you played obviously doesn't translate to being a great coach. So so that coaching education piece is key. So without a doubt. So awesome. All right, Coach. Well, hey, that's going to do it for our first segment. We know we're going to bring you back shortly for our second segment for Counterattack. We get to pick on you a little bit and ask you some random off-the-wall questions, see how you do. No pressure, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsor.
College Promoters USA, founded and located in San Antonio, operates as the only family-owned college recruiting company in Texas that brings a truly professional, local, and face-to-face approach to area high school student athletes and their families. As the lead sponsor and proud supporter of the 50/50 podcast, alongside Coach Hector Cano, College Promoters is proud to be elevating its support for the college soccer recruiting process more than any other service in the country. If your son or daughter is serious about competing in college soccer, call College Promoters USA directly at 210-494-6363 or visit collegepromotersusa.com anytime. College Promoters USA, the best investment a parent can make in their high school student athlete.
And we're back with Coach Gilbert Villareal, the head men's soccer coach of the San Antonio Reagan Rattlers. All right, Coach, it's counterattack time. You ready?
I'm ready. I love getting picked on. It keeps me on my toes.
All right. Okay. First one. How would you have coached you? Coach you, coaching player you. How would you, if you could go back, how would you have coached you?
Yeah, I would have had to have been pretty patient. I have a couple players right now that they can be clowns, right? And they're always about trying to have a good time and goof around. And at times I was guilty of that a little bit as a player. And so that level of patience that it takes to be a parent, to be a teacher, to be a coach is just so like roller coaster, right? Sometimes I have too much of it, and sometimes I just don't have any. And for me, I had some great coaches growing up. My college coach was a 4.0 graduate from Princeton, and we used to joke that he was too smart to be coaching us idiots, yeah, just maybe encourage a young Gilbert to kind of work harder and be a little bit more serious about it at times. But I don't regret any of the experiences that I had as a player. So yeah, just more patience.
Do you ever have those random flashbacks where you see yourself in some of your players? Like you can relate to that in terms of the old you, the player you in some of your players?
If not on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what makes it fun, right? Because like I tell my own two sons, it's like you're going to do as I say, not as I did, or not as I'm doing. And it helps, I think, just relate to the players. I joke with them that I'm one of them. I'm still a kid at heart, and these guys keep me young, and just being able to be around the sport and be around them and joke around with them is great. And so I'll kind of sometimes have to hide my laughter because they'll do something and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's something I did all the time, and I want to get mad at them, but
Right.
it's like, you used to do that, you dummy. And so
Yeah.
um, yeah, that's what's great. I mean, as much as times have changed,
Yeah.
you get 20, 30 boys out on the soccer field in a situation, and it hasn't changed, right? So it's
Right.
a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I have those moments with my team, with my girls as well, and we start talking about it, and they start kind of peeling back the layers to the onion that is me, and they start to realize that I'm quite a bit more of a prankster than they would have ever imagined. So yeah, I can definitely relate. So
Yeah.
all right, next one. Now this is as a coach, not as a player. Any game day superstitions or rituals?
Jeez, I've been really trying to get better about this because players over the years have really accused me of being bad about this. And I teach math, so I'm a numbers guy, and I not that I'm a great numbers guy, but I just have certain numbers in my mind that kind of mean things to me. Walter and a bunch of other guys, used to joke about me. One of the things that I do is, and I don't know why, but it's what I do. When I'm leaving the locker room to go out to the field, I always walk across the corner and take 3 steps, like right inside the corner flag. And there could be a girls' game going on before me or something, and I'll just do it. I don't know why. It's just one of my little superstitions. But there's that. There's game day. We have a shoot around, and there's little things in game day that I used to do. I don't know how much I'll be doing it, here going forward, but I always used to just take a bag of balls and go out, while the kids were kind of stretching for shoot around, and nobody could touch a ball until I hit the crossbar at least one time. And some days it happened a lot sooner than others, but they would get frustrated with me. They'd be standing there just waiting, for me to hit the stupid crossbar. But a lot of them stem from our playing days, right? It's like, I mean, people make fun of me too because I show up in flip flops at the games, and it's just because I shouldn't be saying this because I'm not supposed to be driving a bus with flip flops on, but I'll take that one back. But I just, from little things as players, as far as what shoe you put on first and how you kind of pack your bag and the manner, I don't get dressed to play, but when I was playing, and it's carried over as a coach, like what article of clothing you get dressed, and you put on your warm-ups and all that stuff. It's just little rituals that
Right.
I can't get rid of, man. I've been trying to, but it's hard.
All right. The 3 steps one, so you'll cut right across the field. That's live. That's an actual, you'll just right in that corner.
I'll wait till the ball's, in the other half. And it's not like I go out on the field. I just cut across the little, quarter arc in the corner. And I don't, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, I've done it and we've lost. I've done it and we won, but I just got to do it. Yeah.
I guess at that point, it's no longer a superstition. We just call it a tradition now, right? Yeah. It's a tradition.
Exactly.
All right. Next one. Cats or dogs? We
got dogs. Well, we have a dog. That's an easy one for me. My dad was allergic to cats growing up, and my wife had a cat at one point, and just I don't know, I can appreciate them, but the unpredictability of their actions and their behaviors sometimes just drives me crazy. I know exactly what I'm going to get out of Annie, our little dog, every day, and 100% dogs.
There you go. All right. Morning person or night owl?
I think I tend to be more of a night owl for sure. My seventh grader, he made the, he's playing all these sports at Bush Middle School, and he has 6:30 a.m. basketball practice for his JV, for his seventh grade B team, and so that's been killing me a little bit. But it's been amazing to see how much stuff I can get done when I get to school, like at 7:00. So,
Right.
But I tend to stay up late. Yeah, it's always been something that I've done, and I think I do some of my best work in those hours.
Yeah. Who was it? I had the coaches, the head men's and women's soccer coaches for Caddo Mills on a couple of episodes ago, and we talked about that. Came up when I asked this question, and I told them, I said, I think the more I talk to that's kind of the byproduct of asking some of these random questions is you stumble across things. And one of the things that I realized is, because I do the same thing, because of what I found and what I'm starting to find, the more coaches I speak to, is when the rest of the family is asleep, you're working on different things, right? Whether it's emails, getting caught up, watching film, tons of film. I do lots of that, lots of notes, getting ready for practices, getting ready for games. The house is quiet, right? And you can I find the same thing. You can get stuff done.
Yeah. And it's, it's a rat race during the day, and everybody knows this just as well as I do, going from class to class and teaching and practicing and doing your lunch duty and, picking up the bus. And it's just like a flurry of little things every day that gets done. And then you go to a game, or you coach a game, or you scout a game, and you get home, and, your mind just races for hours on end about what I could have done, what we need to do. And that time to just kind of wind down at times is, I don't know how guys,
it's a process.
I don't know.
It's a process.
So it's definitely for me nighttime.
Yeah. Likewise. VAR, VAR, whichever you want to call it. VAR, yes or no?
Yes.
Frustratingly,
yes. I mean, if it's sometimes these VAR decisions just blow your mind. They really do. And you're asking yourself, how can a person sit there and look at that and not see something, or see something differently than what you thought? But, I think that the evolution of the offside VAR needs to continue. I mean, these, toenail decisions about, he was off by a whisker is something that I don't think is true to the true nature of the game.
The intent. Yeah. The intent.
The solution to that is difficult, because you really start falling into some subjective areas of, well, he was or he wasn't. But, for you would never, as great as it was when I was a 12-year-old and I saw Maradona punch that ball in, it wasn't right. And so, it's just like getting those moments corrected is, I think, going to help the game. And,
right.
I mean, I'd love to see, at least at the pro level, like tennis, why can't they decide when the ball's out of bounds or not? We had that Japanese goal that was just crazy.
Yeah.
And if they can have goal line technology, why can't we have, a little watch go off on the ref when the ball goes out of bounds, things like that. But, it needs to continue to improve. And there's always going to be that human element of subjectivity of the center ref, or, the guy looking at the VAR. But overall, in my opinion, I think it's doing more good than it is bad.
Yeah. I agree. And got a statement here from Dave Phelan, which I will refuse to acknowledge. Is this going to be Arsenal's year? I say to that no, because I'm also a Liverpool guy. So
yeah. We'll see.
Are you an Arsenal guy?
It's no secret that I am an Arsenal fan, and we're just going to enjoy this for as long as we can.
Thank Thank you for joining us on the podcast. This concludes our show, Coach. Thank you. So
yeah, exactly.
Now
Never
that
to
you
be
told me
invited again.
All right. So that kind of perfect segue. We just established that. My next question was favorite and least favorite soccer team. So we got 50% out of the way.
Sure. Well, I'm going to be cheesy and say my favorite soccer team are the Reagan Rattlers, right? And then, of course, I'm a big fan of the Veterans Memorial Patriots. My son Ethan is a senior over there this year with Coach Lieber, and just super appreciative to him for all the things he's done for my son. And so obviously a huge SAFC fan. Being from San Antonio, professionally, obviously a big Arsenal fan. And therefore it's pretty easy to figure out who my least favorite is, and that would be Tottenham. So it's just a natural kind of, it's kind of like I have to, even though they're pretty enjoyable to watch sometimes. But yeah, I could go across, it's hard not to be a fan of these just elite European clubs that just play some amazing stuff. And, here locally, obviously San Antonio guys. So sometimes I, like the Dynamo. Sometimes I like, FC Dallas, and trying to support those local Texas teams. I'm still not to a place where I can like Austin FC too much, with that whole history of us maybe getting that team. But it's a great place to go watch a game. So it's
absolutely, yeah.
But at the top is Arsenal for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of Tottenham, I saw a tweet with a photo of Messi in a Tottenham kit, saying it was basically along the lines of, now that he's led Argentina to a World Cup, the only miracle left, I think, for him to do is lead Tottenham to a title. So, which it was hilarious when I read it. But all right, next one.
To any title for that matter, just to take a little dig at Tottenham.
You are Coach Gilbert Villareal is appointed the soccer czar in America, right? He's in charge of all of soccer. What's the very first change you would make tomorrow regarding soccer in America?
Selfishly, I would say let all these kids play in MLS Next and the DA, let them play high school. That's a whole nother debate, right? We,
right.
I was reading the article the other day about, it was either 16 or 17 of the 26 U.S. men's national team players at some point were playing in the development academy, and so there's no doubt about its positive effect on the level of play. In my opinion, those elite players are going to go play in Europe and play abroad. And if you look at all those players that are on the men's national team now and the experiences they've had overseas, how does that affect our local MLS Next kids and our, previously the DA? I would look at that seriously. And then the other thing too, I would say at the top of my list would be to make, whether it's through USSF or whether it's through USC, the United Soccer Coaches, the inaccessibility of coaching licenses and courses to coaches in the United States is ridiculous. You look at, other countries and the amount of highly qualified, highly licensed coaches that they have at the youth level, at the national level, all those things. That's a big one for me. I was lucky enough to take my C at not too long ago, and I'm getting kind of old, and I'd like to take my B maybe, but it's just not affordable for me, and
right.
So making those USSF licenses demanding and is one thing, but to make them more accessible, I think, is another thing. And
right.
And so there's that whole issue of coaches' education that is huge. And then, I'll be honest, I think that the trend, if I could say a third thing is, the trend for college rosters to be so heavily littered with foreign players is an issue. And to each his own. Everybody deserves a right. That's one of the things I love about our country is it's openness, and it's offering people from other countries to come here and live here and work here and go to school here, all those things. But if we want to continue to grow, the MLS, if we want to with domestic players, if we want to, continue to grow, our national team, then I think that it's difficult to say. I don't know what the percentage would be, but there should be a requirement that there's a certain amount of domestically grown United States kids that have to be on your roster, So that might be a controversial one, but I think that it's important.
Right. Yeah, I know one of the hot topics right now that's heavily being just looked into, investigated on the NCAA side is the volume of not just internationals, but internationals with some sort of previous not semi-pro, but actual professional experience that are slipping through the cracks.
Yep.
That's a big one, and you got 25, 26-year-old, freshmen, right? Air quotes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a very big topic right now at the NCAA level for sure.
Yep.
All right, next one for you, Coach, that you can share. Favorite movie quote.
Favorite movie quote. That's a tough one because there's so many, right? Like, I mean, I don't know if you're coming to mind, but the Shawshank Redemption at the end when he's about to break out of prison and he says, get busy living or get busy dying. I like that one. I'm all about some of the cheesy ones too. I'm a Rocky fan, so some Clubber Lang quotes are kind of funny about your dead meat and all that stuff is funny. But
the prediction pain. I like that one. The prediction pain.
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. I love myself a good movie, but there's so many. There's probably some that are probably not appropriate for the show.
I know that's why I said that you can share, but yeah, you can tell me those offline.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good deal. So next one, if not, and you maybe kind of alluded to this earlier at the very beginning before you got into teaching, but if not an educator and coach, you would have been what?
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, when I got out of college, I just had a few student loans, I say sarcastically. And, I didn't, my biggest thing was time to go make some money. So I had my degree in math and, I got into sales and I was actually with a uniform company, Universe Uniforms, for 3 years and was a assistant plant manager for them. And I got into the engineering position as well and was doing a lot of traveling. And so, yeah, I mean, I kind of had enough of the corporate world, and that's when my mom kind of convinced me to teach and coach. And so, thank God to her because it's been an amazing 20 plus years, and hopefully I can survive another 5 or 6 and retire one day. But I think that with my background, some type of engineering position, but I would have just been so dreadful. I can't stand. Just being in an office or being in the classroom. Yeah. I am amazed at, the teachers I work with that are just grinding in that room all day long, 6 or 7 periods. Because it's definitely has to be something outside. If I could go back, yeah, I don't know. I mean, something to do with my not engineering, but math background or, hopefully something that would allow me to get outdoors and kind of, not be cooped up in an office all the time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I often joke and say that the reason why coaches are coaches is because they don't want to get, and obviously kind of tongue in cheek, but they don't want to have real jobs. Right. So that's why we're coaches. We need to be out and about. Right. So, yeah, I agree. So
absolutely.
All right. Watching a movie alone in a theater. Yes or no?
I've done it. I don't necessarily think I enjoy it. I used to travel a bunch for work, like I said before I got into teaching. And you're out, in the middle of nowhere, different cities, and it's like, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to go eat some dinner. Maybe we'll go to a movie. I don't know. Not that I did it that often, but no, 100% with friends. I mean, the memories of speaking of Rocky, one of my favorite memories I'm going to embarrass myself a little bit, but who cares? My dad took me and my sister to go see Rocky 3. And when Mickey, the trainer, died, I teared up. I started crying. And my dad, was like trying to console me and being able to go to movies with friends and family and my wife, obviously when we're dating and all those previous dates that you go on and have those experiences. And now enjoying the movies in the theater with my two sons, it's definitely the way that I would prefer it, with friends and family.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Next one, 2 left, coach, 2 left. So then this one, I know you mentioned your wife was listening, so she could probably chime in here at any point, but scale of 1 to 10, how good or bad of a driver are you? If a 1 is you need to have your driver's license revoked immediately, and a 10, you're the standard. You clearly do not drive a bus with flip-flops. You're the standard, the gold standard.
A lot of people think I don't know. I don't really mind what people think of me too much, but I've been, accused of being arrogant sometimes, but I'm a pretty modest guy, but I'm going to have to give myself an 8 or 9 there because I could drive. Yeah. I mean, I went to school in Sherman. So, I mean, I drove up that I-35 and 75 so many times and been driving since I was 16. I've drove standard, drove automatic. I'm pretty good behind the wheel of a bus. Of course, now I'm going to hit something, but, I parallel parked the bus the other night and all my kids thought I just like cured cancer or something, like they couldn't believe it. But, I mean, I've taught my son, my older one, how to drive. And, my dad was a good teacher himself, but, can't give myself a 10 because I've had a few wrecks and a few tickets, but I'm not bad.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And the last one's kind of, it's in the form of a question, obviously, but it's not directly counterattack related. So, got to ask you about this one. And the one that I told you we were going to talk about, right? I mentioned it multiple times. You got to tell us about the legend of that was just kind of took the state of Texas by storm, the Texas high school soccer scene by storm last year, the #fancy graphic. Tell us, because I'm a graphics guy, so you got to. I love that. I was looking forward to it every match. I wanted you guys to just keep winning so we could get those. To be honest with you, but tell us how that kind of came about.
Yeah. So when you started asking the question and you were like, I told you we're going to talk about, like, what is he talking about? I don't even know what he's going to bring up. And so then, of course, when you got into it, yeah. So the fancy.
I'll bring this up now from Dave Phelan because I see great minds think alike. He's referencing
exactly. No, so I kind of get just frustrated sometimes with teams, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever, like just overdoing it sometimes with all this like fancy stuff about their players. And some of it is really cool, I admit, but other stuff is just like, it's not very good at all, and it's just kind of cheesy and bad. And so, they have, people obviously that help with those things or themselves that run those accounts that are much more, either have time, even though the stupid fancy graphics I was doing was taking a lot of time, but they have time.
Exactly. That's what I was like, God, it's like this, whoever's doing this takes a while.
Yeah. So so it kind of just came about because, people were like, you got to announce the game and you got to announce the where it's at and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I've got a few other things that are on my plate right now that I'm trying to prepare for to get to us, to this game and hopefully do well. And I don't have time for it. And so the very first one was just a screenshot of Comalander. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I got, we talked about before the show about being Samsung guys. And so I took out my little, stylus pen and I just wrote something on there. And there it was.
I recognized it.
Yeah, it was. And so then, of course, people were like, that's horrible. And I was like, that's the point. Like, it's supposed to be horrible. And so then it kind of just, I just kind of took off from there. And, I don't know. What it really did was it was kind of a escape, right? Because when you get to those district games and when you get to being lucky enough to maybe make the playoffs and win a playoff game, there's so much to do and there's so much stress and anxiety and excitement and fear and with those things last year to announce each game, I just kind of was like, I'm gonna get some colors out and draw something, and then it was fun. I don't know. I guess I'll have to try and get motivated again to do it. Hopefully, if we're in that situation again. But that was
you realized you had created a monster there, didn't you? After a couple, probably about 2 or 3 in.
Yeah,
Then you had an audience. You had a demanding audience.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one was like a ransom note, right, with all kinds of different cutouts. Another, I remember one. I can't entirely remember. I know it involved a fireplace.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, so I loved them. They were they were great, and I actually talked about it with Jimmy when we were in one of our conversations. I don't know how that came up, but it came up.
I remember.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was fun, and it's kind of people that know me well. I don't know. I just kind of sometimes go against the flow of things, and I just was like, I'm tired of all these people with their stupid fancy stuff that we don't have, and I don't have time or I don't have anybody doing this for me, so I'm just going to take it in a whole nother direction. And it was fun. It kind of got my mind off things a little bit. But the ransom note one, I didn't even think about that. I was like, what am I going to do next? I was like, I'll just cut out some number, letters and stuff. A good friend from the Tasco board was like, nice kidnapper's note, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't even think of that. So yeah,
I think there was one that involved the three amigos too, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? There was
another request.
Yeah, you see,
and that was DJ Hammonds. So DJ Hammonds was the president of Tasco right before Jimmy and I, and or right before me actually. I was his vice president, and he had texted me. He dared me. He goes, "I dare you to get some type of Three Amigos like reference in there." I was like, "Okay, well here it goes." But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's a great story. I had to ask about it just because I loved it. So, Coach, this has been awesome. This has been great. Really have enjoyed having you here. A lot of great insight. Appreciate your candor as well. As is customary, before we go, we kind of like to open up the floor one last time to our guests and just share. We kind of call it final thoughts, but whether it's shout outs, thank yous, just talk about something that's on your mind that you've noticed in regard to our sport. Anything that you want to share, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Hector. I say we, it's just me. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate you asking me on. I've been a fan as well of your work and just trying to help us, grow the sport and promote our kids and promote our schools. And there's a lot of people doing that now, and it's great to see. And, to be a little bit a part of that has been great through my role in other, respects. And, we need more of it. And so, I'd like to someone that I hadn't mentioned all night, and that is, my assistant coach, Coach Snyder, Logan. He's a great guy who does a lot of work and is a part of our success, just like, a lot of the assistants I've had, if not all of them in the past. And, the work that those guys do, I think deserve, some shout outs as well, because he's my work wife for sure. And he puts up with me and does a lot for our program. So I wanted to mention Logan as well. But I just looking forward to the season. And I wish all the teams out there the best of luck. And I'm looking forward to being a part of games and watching games and just feel super lucky to be here today and be a part of the high school soccer environment and especially at the school I'm at. So thank you. And one quick question too. So. Yeah. The 50-50 pod, is that like, so what's the origination of the actual, I was thinking like 50-50 ball, like the 50-50 challenge.
Yeah.
Is that what it is pretty much?
Yeah. I get asked this question every now and then, and for some reason it tends to be math guys. Go figure, right? Numbers. But I think when we were first looking at this, I was like, all right, so what are we going to call it, right? I don't know why. Just started looking at different names, and obviously you're trying to find something that'll stand out, something that'll pop, something that people can easily remember, something that's kind of short, also not too lengthy. So we started looking at all these different things and what's out there, but I always envisioned in terms of my thought process in terms of the coverage for the podcast was high school soccer, Texas high school soccer, and Texas college soccer. Now, and you can make the argument there's some coverage of club, but club is, as you know, it's harder to get your arms around, right? Just because the sheer volume of teams, different levels within different clubs. So we do try to do the best that we can in terms of covering club, but it was a two-part animal, right? Or a two-headed monster in terms of what we were trying to cover, which is high school and college in the state of Texas. So kind of 50-50 per se, right? So, and one of the things that's universal in terms of our sport is known as a 50-50 ball, right? So that's just, and then the logo kind of, it popped, it went with the logo when we put that together, and and the podcast was born. That's how it all kind of came to fruition.
There you go. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
It's been great to see the growth, and just want to thank you again.
Yeah. Right. And I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you. I appreciate your humility, even though you gave yourself an 8 in terms of the driving score, right? But no, I appreciate your humility, and I appreciate your accessibility and wanting to, because your program, your district, it's a big part of in terms of the success of this, the sport across the state, across the region, across the city as well. So, and we're trying to hit on all of that. So sincerely appreciate your time. Want to wish you the absolute best of luck to you and your squad, and your girls squad as well going forward. Safe holidays, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and get ready to go. When's the first match is when? First official match that counts as when?
So we're probably going to get stomped by our alumni next Thursday.
I saw that.
Yeah, if the right ones show up. So that'll be fun for us. And then the first official match will be a fun one because, this is the next one I think you need to get on is Heather Boss over at Smithson Valley, because, the things that she's doing as a female coach and, coaching boys now for the last 2 years as a head coach. She was my assistant as well. But, first official match will be that Monday, January 2nd against Smithson Valley and Coach Boss over there. And so that'll be fun and just great to kind of get started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've been talking, her and I've been talking. We continue to keep missing each other or not being able to align things. But yeah, if you get a chance as well, you can kind of give her some friendly grief. That would probably help us out. I'd appreciate that. But that's going to do it for us. Again, we'll be coming back. Actually, we're having another show tomorrow, which will get announced shortly. So it's going to be a fun one. It'll be our second annual the holiday edition with a couple of college coaches. So we'll look forward to that. That'll get announced shortly. And then we'll be back on Thursday as well for our very first episode, I guess, of season 3 of Inside Texas High School Soccer with Coach Rafa Castorena and myself, where we'll be looking at upcoming tournaments, the grand reveal of his RPI, the Rafa Power Index, which is a very unique perspective on rankings, where I think it's pretty cool. He looks at, regardless of classification, 4A, 5A, 6A, and he just gives his power 15, right? So it's like a pound for pound ranking. So pretty cool, pretty different, pretty unique, and has some fun with it as well. So, but yeah, for our listeners, thank you again. I always share that you're the reason why we do it, and being able to work with and interview great coaches such as Coach Villareal is a big part of it as well, and being able to showcase their school and their program. So you're the reason why we do it. So thank you for all the love, all the support, all the listens, the downloads, and the questions, and we sincerely appreciate it. And as always, the routine, you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.
You've been listening to the 50/50 podcast, powered by College Promoters USA. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms.
And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at 50_50pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading,